ladies and gentlemen, I am Borderwise, and welcome back to From the Depths Subscribercraft Review. And just before we get started, there's the usual reminder for anyone watching, those people who are new in particular. Submissions are closed, so the list that will be in the description, that is all that there will be for this series. After that is ending. No more please, I don't have time in my life. And the other thing is... what was the other thing? Gosh dang it, I forgot what the other thing was. It was important, but I guess I'll have to try and remember it later. So anyway, the submissions are closed, and... no, I don't remember. Darn it. Oh well, future me, if you remember, put it up on screen right now. Thank you. Okay, so, on to the review itself. The Subscribercraft review today, we have a battleship of sorts, the Defiant by Harry Barlow. And I like this thing. Overall, I like this thing. I'll have to quantify it throughout the review, or qualify it, not sure which. But yeah, this is a decent ship. It's reasonably expensive. 351,154 materials in cost. It's about just over 12,000 blocks. Like 162 meters long, 25 meters wide, height 29, so quite a long craft. So yeah, I like him long. Please don't take that out of context. So, this is overall a decent craft, it just needs some tweaks here and there, a few things added, a few things modified. But yeah, let's start with the pros. What is good about this thing? Well, immediately you can see it's got big guns and it cannot lie, so it's got four big cannons on it, so 400 millimeters for all of them, 3 turrets, 4 guns each, and they've got a mixture of ammunition with them. So if we go here, 4, I always count out loud that kind of thing. So each gun, each turret rather, all 4 guns in them share the same ammunition. So this is Disruptor, and the where the ammunition itself, I actually didn't find this earlier. Where did I put it? Get out of the water. Get out of here. Oh, I swear this is somewhere. Oh, here it is. So here is one of the ammunition. It's Disruptor 400 millimeter Disruptor warhead. So Disruptor to impede smoke. So Disruptor smoke. Not ideal. More on that later. So it's got Disruptor rounds in the first turret. It has... gimme. Hesh in the next one. And the third and final one is... AP-capped frag inertial fuse with quite a low frag angle on it. So, the weapons of the 3 main guns, it works. It works quite well. When it shoots at things, things die. And the Tetris is actually pretty good in here. So if we do this, it's all nice and snug. Got good rotational symmetry all the way around. Guns wrap around. If you want guns that are like 4 guns per turret, this is pretty much the way to do it. And they're rail guns as well. So these things... well, what's interesting with these guns is all of these turrets is that the rail guns... you see here, where's it? Where is it? Okay, so, right up here. So, 100% of the energy, which is, about 7,000 energy, is used for an accuracy buff. So, these guns are very, very accurate. So, it's like 0.102 accuracy. So, that's pretty good. These things rarely miss, I tend to find. The target needs to be quite a way underwater, or it needs to be moving quite erratically for these things to not hit their target. So, very accurate guns. I don't think they're the best APS guns I've seen. Not like I can do much better, but they are pretty good. They're solid construction. I forgot to mention what kind of shells how long these shells are. So, 1, 2, 3, 4 4-meter shells. 4-meter shells for 400 millimeters is pretty good length. So yeah, nothing to complain about there. And those aren't the only guns it has. It has anti-aircraft guns as well. It's got this dorsal-mounted anti-aircraft gun, which is a 2 cannons in here, and it's a timed flak. And oh, here we go. And what? 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 I'm confused. Okay. So yeah, so there is something weird must be going on with the intakes, because it's like this is a double-barreled, I believe, timed flak and timed frag in these 2 guns. It doesn't seem to be doing that right now. Maybe that's a bug. Maybe I'm just stupid. Who knows? So yeah, does the job reasonably well. Shoots down things well enough. Yeah, what else? So it's also got these little guns on the side here. So these little 100mm sabot cannons. So it's literally just this. So sabot head and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7 gunpowder casings. Not great. More on that later. It's also got, and this is a feature which I keep meaning to put into a ship that I built myself that I keep forgetting. It's got hull-mounted anti-aircraft lasers. So this is very clever. Well, it's not. I don't know. It's super clever. It's obvious once you think of it, but it's basically just a laser system sticking in here. It's got one laser combiner sticking out to one side, one on the other, and one pointed straight up. And what this does is it just where's the local weapon control for this? Here it is. It's call sign AA laser. So what this does, and so let's actually, yeah, let's do that. So what that does, those lasers are essentially last-ditch little defense against flyers that fly directly over it. And you can see right there that laser, which is nicely hidden right there. So, like, if you hate the way lasers look with long noodle barrels and all that, you just do that, and you can see it just took down a flying squirrel, absolutely no problem. And conveniently labeled AIs with absolutely everything. Very, very nice. Let's spawn another squirrel, because that was hilarious and fun. So yeah, it's got pretty good anti-air capabilities, all things considered. And you probably saw just then, this top-facing laser, it's quite similar to... Where's it? Regular laser ship. The glaive, the Onyx Watch glaive, which has lasers pointing straight up. It's a pretty decent way of, like, zapping things that fly over directly on top of you, simply because anti-aircraft guns, even ones with 2-meter AA mantlets, tend to struggle with shooting straight up, or rather tracking things that are directly above them. So yeah, my cheesy little bombers have trouble with this kind of thing, I should mention. Well, not a huge amount of trouble, but this is definitely a way to counter craft that just kind of sit on top of you and just stay there. So yeah, it's also got pretty good missiles, actually. So these are small missiles, but it's the first time I've actually seen remote guidance being used, and used effectively. Not that I haven't seen it much. It hasn't really been in the game long enough to really for people to really experiment a lot and like put it out there, whether it works well or not. But it's pretty good. So it does. Yeah. So for one thing, having remote guidance on a missile frees up the front of the missile for use of thumper heads, which hurt like hell. It has a huge amount of frag, all set to 180 degrees. The target protection guidance are regulated, so its lifetime is doubled. Now, the fuel, lots of fins, so decent turn rate, so about 25 degrees per second at full speed. So it's not bad. So, not great either, so... But, what I tend to find is that remote guidance seems to work very well in this particular setup, simply because the general purpose of processing power used per missile is so low. So, it's 0.5 processing power per missile. So, times 4, it means it's 2 general it's 2 processing power per missile per gantry. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 24 processing power. And if we have a look down here, you'll see it's got that. So it's got it hidden right here. So if you're wondering, yeah, general purpose processing cards are quite expensive. This is actually Tetris. Okay, never mind. It could be Tetris better, but it fills the space. So yeah, these missiles are actually pretty good. So missiles. So I believe it can. It hurts quite a lot. So let's have King's Head. Let it load, please. Okay, you can stop there now. So, yeah. Thumperheads, and that particular little missile barrage. It's a lot of missiles, by the way, but, it just took something like, 150 blocks or so off one of the most heavily armored ships in the game. Barring things that are just made out of heavy armor blocks. 4 meters of metal just punched a hole straight through it, so yeah, those missiles, they hurt. They hurt a lot. And they're pretty good at shooting things down as well, so if I... let's spawn in something stupidly fast and annoying. I think, I haven't tested this, I think they can take down a flying squirrel. Actually, the flying squirrel doesn't even fly that erratically, so... Yeah, easy. No worries. Let's try... And because they're remote guided, they can they can swap targets quite easily, so... Where are you? What's something? Spawn in a falcon, see what happens. So falcon is pretty fast, I think... Will it be able to handle this? Should have tested this ahead of time, but the great thing about remote guided missiles is that they can keep tracking things. And yeah, they're fast. They're fast and they can catch things, so... Yeah. So they're pretty good missiles, actually. I might steal them to stick on a design of my own. What else? So, also, good shield coverage. So let's turn you off. And let's spawn in something harmless. So, easy, broader. And it's got daddy blades, by the way, which are controlled by ACBs, not the AI. So, yep, there they go. Haven't found the ACB that does that, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. It's got, it's got a lot of shields. It's got shield coverage pretty much all around, which I don't even bother to do these days for the most part, and I don't know, seems to work for me so far. Admittedly, the white flares are my worst nightmare, but yeah. So these shields are all strength 3. So the ones I've checked, so they're not perfect. They do let things like crams through, they do let slower shells through. But yeah, they've even got double layering around the turrets here, so... There we go. Yeah. Actually, this one, yeah. And they're quite efficient as well, so... This is strength 3 shield, only 50 power, and that's because the range is set to 1.1. Something I keep forgetting is a trick you could... Oh, wow, that's cheeky. Strength 6, 189, very little power use. Like, you guys know me, I hate shields, so... I know this is a good thing to do, like, if you're actually worried about particularly kinetic, APS shells coming in, but I really cannot be stopped most of the time. But this is good, because if we go here, And we just let this guy drive around. Marauder, go away. And let's spawn in a white flare ship. So regular slasher, yeah. I believe the slasher only has kinetic shells. Yeah, I believe it does. So, yep, lots of bouncing. Assuming it's accurate at all, jeez. Oh yeah, this is a... Oh boy. Quit proving me wrong. What is... Whoa, your aim is terrible. You see the occasional block knocked off. But anyway, you get the idea. It's got shields. It has shields just in case. And it also has Deadly Blade propulsion and steering, so... Let's spawn in... Shuriken, why not? Incidentally, I am loving the fact that you can just turn the weapons off on AI quite easily. It's quite handy for testing. So it's motoring along at around 20 meters per second, but it doesn't have many props back here. So it's got, how many props is that? Ooh, 10 props. Not usually enough to make a ship this big go that fast, but that is because it has Deadly Blades. It has lots of Deadly Blades. Right here in the middle, where it has some space. Yep, so I know a lot of people, I say this every time I see Deadly Blades, actually. A lot of people don't like internal Deadly Blades, but I love them. They're really good. In fact, what I'd almost call my standard pattern of ship these days seems to use them just all the time. So because if you've got some spare space and some spare engine power, just why not? Just stick them in. I believe this is... I think this engine is a behemoth or something like it. I don't know. I can never identify engines by sight. It's also got steering Deadly Blade. So if your command is right to set spin block speed to minus 30 degrees per second, well, 30 times a second, and set the opposite. Yep, so, and it's got the opposite in the front, which is a great idea. Internal, especially these days, like, you don't actually need ACBs to do this, but, like, nothing's stopping you, really. So, yep, same thing here. ACBs controlling that, means it steers quite nicely, and it does have a rudder in the back. So it still has a rudder, it's not just reliant on that alone. Yep, it's got two rudders, actually, so this thing turns pretty well. Steers here, there, and everywhere. Okay, what else, what else, what else? It's also got, yeah, you will notice, it's got a lot of props underneath it. That is because it's a very compact ship. Doesn't have many air gaps, doesn't really use air pumps, and it's made almost entirely out of metal, so it doesn't float well. It needs these. It possibly a little bit too many props, really, for what it needs. You could like stick some hydrofoils on here instead, and that would do the trick just as well. But yeah, who am I to judge? It also has a decent lamp system, so if I go here, and what's something that spits out a stupid amount of Onyx Watch, we're just gonna spawn in lots of stuff, so let's spawn in... Like, if any of you guys can name off the top of your head something that spits out a huge amount of crams all at once, yeah, that'd be really good, because, wait, I think Poseidon does that. Does it? Does it? I'm trying to remember, what's that thing called? Maybe the Constitution. Oh yeah, there it goes. So, lots and lots of, crams, but let's see, actually. I stand corrected. Guess nothing quite handles the Constitution. Oh my god, well that was... Okay, so it's got a decent lamps on it, not a fantastic one. teach me to underestimate the Constitution? Jeez. Wow. Okay. Yeah, so it has a lamp system. Let's go with that. It also has pretty good armor, notwithstanding the fact that it just lost a turret. Or both the turrets on the back. Let's speed this up before we stop it. Hello. We ain't got time for that. We got stuff to do. We got ships to talk about. We can't wait around for you repairing stuff all the time. Will you stop it? I actually kind of, I don't know. It's a thing in the designer that, when you're trying to use the repair tool, which is what I have assigned to number 8 on the keyboard. If your avatar has repair tentacles enabled, that tends to slow it down, simply because the repair tool, the avatar's, Rambots, the repair tentacles take priority, and that's a lot slower than the repair tool. Anyway, this thing has good armor, so if you look there, you can just see how much of the side is just bulge armor, so I guess this would add a last. It's like, right across, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers of armor just consistently, but at its thickest, which is over here where the ammunition is, so where are we? We're about just in front of the propulsion Daddy Blades. Here you see the ammo is securely wrapped in heavy armor, the way it's properly done. As in, I guess people are either taking my advice or this is unrelated, but fully covered in heavy armor, so there's no gap of weaker material that explosions can take out and just render the heavy armor pointless. So, at its thickest, which is in this straight line here, you have 1, 2, 3 layers of heavy armor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers of metal, including this diagonal slope here. So, that's a lot of armor. So if we activate our super armor powers, go here, that's 60 armor right there. It's pretty amazing. Where is it? Where is it? So, so the armor on this exact line, there, is 70, which is pretty darn good, and it's just consistently just waving the wand around. It's like it never really goes below 40, and on certain angles, so if you aim here for instance and down, ignoring that, yeah, so 50 AC. So this thing is pretty good armor. It's in my tests, it does not get destroyed easily. It takes a while. Building your ships as compact slabs of metal will do that. And what? It's also got not great but decent aim point spoofing. So these ammo barrels right here sit below the waterline, and they're encased in heavy armor. So anything shooting for that has to get through this aforementioned pretty darn thick layer of armor. No air gaps though. We'll talk about that later. Over here it has ammo in the rear, which is a sensible thing to do. It also has smoke around it, so laser. This thing does better against lasers than most of my crafts, simply because I forget to put smoke on them. And hello, heavy armor. Once again, nice secure heavy armor package. And it's also got some ammunition in the front, which is not a great place to stick your ammunition, because it means that shots that lead are more likely to hit it. But there is a virtue in spreading your ammo throughout the ship, regardless. So, way over here, low in the middle, and way at the back. Pretty okay. It's also quite versatile, so if we spawn this thing against something that says, let's spawn in, what is that thing that, it's the Trident. So, as I demonstrated a little bit earlier, this thing has pretty good anti-air capabilities. Hopefully it survives this. the hell happened to that Gannet? What Gannet? I think it got destrunked. Go back over here. That's not what I wanted to demonstrate, darn it. I am, like, sorry Harry, I am not doing a great job of, demonstrating your craft right now. Wait, did the Trident get updated? That'd be just perfect, wouldn't it? Oh my word, I forgot how expensive this thing was. Also forgot how annoying it was. Guys, really, demonstrate... Screw it. Screw it. Let's spawn in something a little bit less insane. Okay. This is what I get for spawning things against this craft that I haven't tested it against before. I get surprised. Who would have thunk it? Okay, let's spawn in something like the Tortuga. Tortuga, Pirates of the Caribbean reference. Oh dear. I wonder if I didn't actually check to... Yep, okay, so there's the AA laser going all the way to Victory Town. There's the little anti-air guns also going to Victory Town. So this thing is just an all-round kind of like battleship-y battleship designed to engage multiple targets at once. See the little flat guns working away. Not firing incredibly quickly. Oh yeah, I completely forgot about... Ah, this is the timed fragged one. Whoops, my bad. My B. What gauge are you? I keep forgetting about this thing. So it's a 100mm timed frag. Little gun. Whee, look at you. So yeah, this is a real World War II space wars happening right now. So you get the idea. You can engage multiple targets. Many different kinds of targets. Pretty versatile. But, okay, so... That's kind of where the pros end, and you've probably already gotten a bit of a hint that there are a few things that could be done better on this craft. And to start with, it's the fact that each turret only has one kind of ammunition in it. One of the main benefits of having multiple guns on a turret is that you can put, you can easily put different kinds of ammunition on each one. So, and like, the mere fact that, Harry, you have chosen to stick your ammo controller, ammo customizers rather, on the turrets themselves has rather limited your ability to mix and match them. So, I would not recommend doing that. I'd recommend putting them on the hull itself. Like, I know it's a lot easier, but just, like, yeah. So, these guns would be a lot more effective if you actually mixed it up a little bit. So, the 3 ammo types plus 1 more per gun, because I tend to find that, like, covering your bases works a lot better than just spamming one kind of thing over and over, because if you just spam one kind of thing, sure, it might work most of the time, but eventually you're going to run into something that counters it. So, as for the ammo itself, so let's go back here. Let's dive in. And so first things first, Disruptor Smoke is not a great combination. So, right here. Firstly, you want to get smoke on target as much as possible, so best to use a fast shell. Disruptors are automatically quite slow because this slows the shell down a lot. Also, disruptors don't synergize well with the inertial fuses because they don't really need them. The EMP jolt isn't really enough in order to justify shooting them in the hull. In fact, most APS EMP shells, like, usually it's not bad, it's just not as good as other options like particle cannons or missiles or even cram cannons. So this and this should never really be on the same shell because they kind of, it's an inefficient combination, and you want smoke to reach its target. So this, because of the disruptor conduit, this thing can be detected by mission warners almost 600 meters away, which is actually further away than most LAM systems can shoot, so it means that at the very least on your first volley you're just going to lose a lot of these shells. And it only fires 4 of them at once, so not great. This thing, as a result, this craft tends to struggle a bit against things with decent LAM systems, particularly things that move quickly and get out of the line of smoke that gets established when these shells get popped. So yeah, not great shell type, and over here as well, also not great. So because this is not a high explosive shell with a bit of squash flavor to it. This is a kind of pure squash head, and again, squash heads don't need inertial fuses. When they hit armor, they detonate, no matter what. It's just how they work. And like you could replace this with another HE warhead body, or you could turn the special factor of this down a bit in order to get a bigger high explosive bang. And so because 400mm hash is actually pretty effective even with no high explosive warheads behind it. Like, one of my favorite shells is a 400mm shell that is literally nothing but a squash head and gunpowder casing. Because it's very small, it's small enough to sneak past LAM systems, and it actually does decent damage, despite everything. So, yeah, so if you really want to optimize this, either make it a high explosive flavored, a high explosive shell with hash flavor, or just get rid of that inertial fuse, because it doesn't need it. Because if you've got disruptors taking out shields, this thing will be able to slip through. That's quite a meta popular combination, is just often in the same turret, disruptor shells and hash. The fact that they're both also reasonably slow shells helps as well. So if you go here, base speed is 453 meters per second. The disruptors are much slower. And last but not least, we have over here. Now. AP capped. So when I first saw these being fired, I thought, oh, interesting, he's done that thing, which I will mention in a little second. So, the AP capped head, what this does is this adds a whole lot of kinetic damage to a shell, and it's basically useful mainly for that. It's adding lots of kinetic damage. And you might think like, ooh, 20,000 kinetic damage, that's pretty good. Here's the thing. Another frag head, so say a frag head added onto the front shell, will still have a similar amount of damage to it. So let's say 213. It's added almost 70 fragments. The fragments do almost 300 damage each now. It's capped at 60, by the way, but yeah, so it just improves the damage of the fragments, which can go through shields, and you've got more chance of hitting something important if it explodes inside a ship and all that stuff. So you only really need this shell if you are doing penetration depth shells. So basically shells that, like armor-piercing shells. So you see this thing, where is it? Here. Okay, so you see this penetration depth fuse. This is something like this could potentially be a pretty good shell. I've seen people use these, like it's usually better to go a bit higher with them, but since you've got them attached to a railgun anyway, you could use the rail to just, what was the, 7,000? Oh, look at that, this thing is going 600 meters per second, pretty not bad armor pierce, and a load of kinetic damage. So this thing, especially if you do something like this, and again, you've got disruptors, so shields aren't going to be an issue with this. So this kind of shell is really, really dangerous, because if this gets inside a ship, it tends to wreck the squishy innards quite well. Now, having something like there's no real point to having a shell like this, ignoring the fact that this is quite a narrow angle. Simply because it's things that don't synergize well. Like, if it hits the shield and it sends fragments forward, the AP capped head is useless. If it hits the hull, it doesn't penetrate. So it does all this kinetic damage to a single target, and it stops, pretty much. So that's wasted kinetic damage. So I would suggest either convert this to a penetration depth frag shell, or just get rid of the AP capped head and put a frag head in, because that'll be enough. And also, usually better to go a little bit wider with the angle on these, because I know it's always tempting and to send a tight cone of fragments forward as like a razor sharp laser beam going through something like pachoo. In practice, the extra damage that each fragment does usually does the trick. In fact, I usually find the best angle for APS frag is just 60, so the default. Because it's a reasonably tight cone, but the fragments still do quite a lot of damage per frag, especially if you have this many. Okay, and we're not done with the APS shells. That's the one of the main problems with this craft, actually, is that the shells are not optimized, and this thing could dish out a lot more damage a lot more quickly if it was like that. So, this is 200mm flak, and quite frankly, 200mm flak is not very good. It's like 245 flak damage is, well, it's no. This is nothing. This is piddly. So with, ironically, I guess, well, ironically or annoyingly, I suppose, flak is only really useful in this game once you start to get about between 300 and 400 millimeter in terms of shell size, because you can see from here the jump from this, a 200mm frag shell, that's 245 damage, 540, it's doubled. So this will actually hurt things quite a bit, and has a huge radius. And in fact, one of the best flak shells in the game is simply a flak head, a timed fuse, and a gunpowder casing, and that's it. And that is a shell that is good for destroying missiles and is good for destroying crafts, simply because it doesn't even need to be a fast shell, because the radius is so big. Okay, so you want to go at least really 300 meters for, well, not 300 meters, 300 millimeters of flak. Anything below that, you're better off using timed frag, which is, for instance, right over here. This little guy, I believe, is doing most of the work. So here, oh dear. If you're gonna have timed frag, it's best to set it to 180, because again, that gets the damage for each fragment up way a lot, and just means, like, especially if it's got less than 60 frags, you need every fragment to count. Okay, so there's that. And last on the APS front is these guns on the side, which do basically nothing, because the kinetic damage is too low. So these are 100mm guns. Yes, they've got great armor pierce. Yes, they're very fast. 300 kinetic damage. That is not enough. This number can get really high, and that's because it needs to. At this rate, like, it'll do full damage to a metal beam, because it's like got over 30 armor pierce, and the metal beam has about 15 AC. It'll only do 300 damage, and a metal beam has about 2,100 health, and especially when suddenly they're stacked. So you've got two metal beams, suddenly this is only doing 150 damage. Not enough. Not enough at all. So, this kind of shell, what works really well is you have an AP capped head. I said earlier this is only useful in pen depth. Not true. This is useful whenever you want high kinetic damage. So, already that spirals up to 800, which is a lot better. And then, what you do is you stick a sabot round on here. So, 1500 kinetic damage or so, 90 there. Yes, the shell is a lot slower, but if it hits something, this will happily go. Well, it still doesn't have enough damage to destroy a metal block, or metal beam rather, but yeah. You can make that up for rate of fire. And speaking of rate of fire, this Tetris, weirdly enough, is really good. However, the golden opportunity was missed here, because, not that one. Let's go here. Cute little turrets, though. Didn't notice that before. So, what you have here is a perfect setup for belt feeders. So, what you have here is, well, it's not a perfect setup for belt feeders, but even autoloaders would be better than nothing. So if you go here, because pure autoloaders are only really useful if you want to keep the size of your gun way down, and fire rate isn't really an issue. So you can convert this into a belt feeder a lot quickly and improve the rate of fire a lot simply by doing this. So solid ammo clip. So this is not a perfect belt feeder because really what you want is in order of things you want most of, you want intakes. Well, you basically want as many intakes as possible, one clip per loader, and that's about it. So what you could do, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, aha, aha. This is what you should do, Harry. I hope you're watching. I'm getting distracted right now. Boom, 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 and boom, 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 boom. Okay, so what you're going to have here, you have 6 belt-fed autoloaders with lots of clips on them. And let's go. So what you have here is something that'll fire a lot faster now, because these things, because like you've got the Tetris for it, it'll work pretty well. Is it all connected? It's not connected. What the hell is this? Ah, I see why you've done this now. In any case, you've got the room for a belt feeder. You can use it. Yeah, I highly recommend belt feeders for these little guys. The shells are small enough to load it. Anywho, what? So that's the APS. I've just realized I've been talking a really long time. This thing sinks rather easily, weirdly enough, which makes sense because as soon as the engines get damaged in any way, so 3, 4, where are the engines? So here's our big engine right here. I believe that's the only engine it's got. As soon as this gets damaged in any way, shape, or form, so say, what do we have here? So here we have an air gap, which is a very good idea, because otherwise heat will ruin your life. As soon as the engine gets damaged, this thing sinks. So let's go. Let's fake damaging the engine by doing this. And also doing this. Wow, that didn't do it yet. Come on, we need to fake engine death better. What the hell am I... What the hell? You'd think that'd do the trick, right? Wait a minute, where's the altitude? Okay, it's running off batteries right now, but in any case, like anything that relies on PIDs to stay upright, if it's out of power, it sinks. Just straight up, it sinks. What's this? Oh, that's adorable. It's got an under-the-water lamb's turret. Okay, more on that later. It's also very material hungry, so let's delete you, because I've messed with you now. So I'm going to spawn in a Defiant, an enemy team, so Steel Striders, and then gonna spawn something, I don't know what. So you can see this thing is just, it's not doing anything, it's just moving. You can see how fast the materials are ticking down. I believe that is because there are steam engines on this thing, and when the batteries are set to anything, well basically if batteries are below full, their burn rate is set to 80%, and they're very small and inefficient, so let's spawn in this guy again, and I can show you what I mean, because I did, clever me, find the ACBs that do that. Assuming I can find them again, assuming the water doesn't throw me off. I believe they're way in front here? No. Watch me not be able to find them again. I know that'll happen. Did find him. They're here somewhere. Fuel. Oh, for crying out loud. I always do this. Never can find the damn thing. Anyway, here's the little steam engines, which you can see right here. Very small. Very small indeed. ACBs, where are you? Gone, dingle damn. Ah, here they are, yes! Okay, blah blah blah. Active rate 1 second, set spin block rotation speed to 0 seconds. That's the ones controlling the shields. Okay, so if the vehicle battery is within 99% to 100%, set boiler rate to 0. If it's between 0 and 99%, we'll set boiler's burn rate to 80%, which means... Where's those steam engines? Where are you? Here you are, so... Does it show? So 80%. So this thing basically burns 1 material every second. That's a lot. That's a lot. Per boiler, I should say. So when all those steam engines are going, 3 materials per second, automatically. Now let's demonstrate that again. It also is a bit of a... Oh, why did I do that? Sorry, I am really tired. I have had a long day. I got up really early. Was walking around a lot and doing lots of stuff. Okay, so the steam is hungry, and that's a start for this thing being quite material hungry. There's the fact that as we fly through this, there's a lot of repair bots. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 14 already, and that's there's more of them. So even more here, symmetrical, and la 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 la, and there's even more over here. So yeah, you guessed it. Oh, here's more steam engines. Hello. Wow, this thing really does burn through materials. Yeah, so lots of repair bots. So if I turn off this, and if I disable all the guns, and if I spawn in something that can actually hurt this thing, like say, yeah, trebuchet. Rambot, you're safely at the bottom of the ocean, right? Yes. So now we're just going to patiently watch this thing's materials go down. So you can see, like, once this thing starts taking damage, it eats materials like crazy. This is the usual problem with repair monsters. They're fine if they don't take damage, but when they do, jeez, it's like, it's literally hundreds per second. Real problem. So this is something that, if you remember, something I kind of overlooked with the Freyberg when I reviewed her. I was just very giddy about the fact she could 1v1 a tier and win. This thing can't do that, by the way, for reasons that I will get into later. And it also has to burn through the ammo a lot. So if we go here, the missiles, and let's just spawn something that's really hard to hit with missiles. Planes. Spurt. Let's throw in a pair of spirits. So, watching the ammo. Oh my goodness, I forgot about that. Let's jump to you. Nope, disabled. So now let's just watch the materials right now. So it's still repairing as well, should mention. But when the missiles reload... Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. Reload pretty fast. So it's going tick, 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 tick. Yep. Nom, nom, nom. Not sure if you saw that, but when the ammo goes down below a certain way, it really, really eats through materials very fast for ammo production as well. So it's the triple danger. It's material hungry for steam, material hungry for repairs, and material hungry for ammunition. So, Go away, Spirit. And you stop moving. Where are we? Oh my goodness, we're all the way over here. Get the hell back there. So while we sail back to Homeport... Okay, so... I mentioned this thing cannot beat the tier, and... Jeez, I'm running out of time. I didn't think this review would go on that long. The reason for that is that, you looking at the underneath here, you can see it's got a little, anti-torpedo lam system, except, it's set to engage projectiles above the water only. Now, this is not your fault, Harry, because back when the, what was it, the laser update? No, not the laser update, what was it? The missile update, hit. This is the default setting for lambs, so they don't automatically target torpedoes anymore, which I'm glad about, because it was really annoying how they could destroy torpedoes so easily. Even despite that, they're not the best option. So this thing basically has no decent torpedo defense, and so it gets wrecked by anything with a decent torpedo payload. So highly recommend torpedo interceptor turrets, or decoys, or something like that. The old video I have on torpedo defense still mostly holds true. It's a little bit outdated now, but those little anti-torpedo turrets, they work pretty well. So, do recommend those. And also, this thing lacks torpedoes. It is not good against where are we going? It is not good against anything that is under the water. So submarines are no-go for this. I happen to know because Harry was telling me back and forth through updating this thing that this thing did have torpedoes at one point, and he removed them because the missile update made this thing. It was either too expensive, too ammo hungry, or a combination of the two. Let me know if I got that wrong, Harry. So, what else? So, air gaps. Air gaps are important. So, if this thing is getting shot at with heat, which does tend to happen in the campaign past a certain point, the Grey Talons and Steel Striders are very fond of using it. So, this super thick patch of armor right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 meters of armor with a layer of heavy armor on there. Heat can go straight through this. I was reminded, or rather, I was told the other day that a heat penetration metric of 20 can go through like 8 meters of armor. Like 8 meters of metal. So this is really simple. So a penetration metric of 30 can go lengthways through a ship. So this is not an obstacle to heat at all. Like, not at all. So this thing is actually quite vulnerable to heat in certain areas. Not all of them, so there is an air gap right here. So, unfortunately right here, it's right into the batteries, and right into material storage and all that stuff. And over here... Yeah, the turrets are armored, by the way, which is a good point. In its favor, I keep forgetting to mention these things. Oh yeah, it's got the little EMP proofing for the repair bots as well. Forgot to mention that. So yeah, needs more air gaps, otherwise it gets popped by heat. And because I mentioned before that disruptor smoke's not a good idea, because disruptor kind of gives the smoke away, or rather the shell gets popped too soon. This craft struggles a little bit. I mentioned this already, but it struggles with craft that have good lambs and also move fast enough to stay out of the way of smoke. So, I'll show you what I mean. So what is something that's fast and has good lambs? Nothing by the. So let's spawn in a Terrabot. So if you see right here, the shells are on the way. What's the first thing on the way? Those big frag things. They missed. Here we have the Hesh. They got popped. Or no, one of them got through. Jeez. Stop proving me wrong. I didn't even see where the blasted... Let's see. Boom, boom, boom. What the hell? Did this thing's lambs get nerfed? Or maybe the shells are just really fast, I don't know. Okay, so, where's the smoke? Here's the smoke. So you see how far out that smoke is. That's how far away those shells got popped. And admittedly, it is winning against the Terawatt right now. Not entirely sure how, like, fast shells are more likely to get through, but this is what was happening. Where's the smoke on? So, you can see it better. Like, I'm not sure if you can see it. There we go. This is no good. So, really, you want smoke to be on about a 200mm shell, just so you can actually make sure it gets on target. Or you could just make the shells really fast. Or maybe I'm just completely wrong. Anyway. I'm so tired. Okay. Also, I mentioned the fact that aimpoint spoofing isn't great. Sticking ammunition anywhere near the center of mass means that particularly cram shells have a field day with you. In some of my testing, I was testing this thing against things like the Eerie and the Thunderclap. It tended to get its arse blown off, its front blown off, and then blown in half by like big volleys of cram shells. And not just cram shells either, like big heat shells also do a number on it. Okay, I am simultaneously freezing to death and dying, so I should probably stop this review right now. But yeah, overall, despite like the fact that this is possibly the most equal amounts of positive and negative things I've ever had with the craft on this series, so like I like this thing. Like pretty much all the cons are easy fixes. You just tweak the ammo a bit and like tweak ACB settings for the steam engines and like ammo production, and just get rid of most of the repair bots, because this, I mentioned before, this craft is tough. It actually does not need so many repair bots. It performs well enough without them. Or at least I think so. Just, again, minor tweaks for more efficiency. And what else? And air gaps, easy to add in. And, like, yeah, and just, you can add, like, basic torpedo defense, like a large missile with sonar signal emitters on it. That works quite well to pull sonar-guided torpedoes away. And you can just do what I usually do and just stick a pair of torpedo launchers in the front here. And that just means it's not completely helpless against underwater targets. So, overall, despite the fact that I've been ragging on it for the last half hour, I like this ship. I like its style. It even looks pretty good. Like, I forgot to mention that. Like, aesthetics, I always forget about aesthetics, but I like the way the superstructure looks. I like the way it's shaped. It's just, even the underside, how the props have their kind of own compartments to them. Even this thing. I think this is adorable. This little lambs thing. It looks like it can pop in and out of the hull if needed. Actually, you can do that with pistons, by the way. Food for thought, Harry. So, in any case, thank you, Harry Barlow, for submitting this craft for me. Thank you for being patient. It has been on the list a very long time, as have many of the craft on the list. And thank you all so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and I will see you next time in From the Depths Subscriber Craft Review. Farewell!